Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead, it's set to be another dry day tomorrow, then a change over the weekend. It's likely we'll see some outbreaks of rain push in from the west. That's all due to low pressure moving its way in from the Atlantic as high pressure slips away off to the east. And as it does so, it does bring in a slight change in our wind direction, more south to southeasterly flow. So we'll see more cloud push into parts of East Anglia, Sussex and Kent. This may produce some showers, also some showers possible across Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. But elsewhere, mostly dry, plenty of clear skies. So it's likely we'll see some mist and fog once again during the morning. Also some isolated rural frost, but most towns and cities remaining in the mid to high single figures. Now, to start the day across Scotland, yes, it will be mostly dry, but it's going to be fairly gusty, particularly around western coasts. A chance of some coastal gales here. So it's unlikely to see any mist or fog during the morning, so a mostly bright but breezy start, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland too. But across the rest of England and Wales, once again, it could be fairly chilly. Some mist and fog, particularly around any valleys. Not feeling quite as cold, though, across parts of the southeast. More cloud here. And as progress through the course of the day, this cloud will spread its way further inland, so it's likely that sunshine will turn more hazy in nature, and once again this cloud could be thick enough to produce the odd isolated shower. But for most it should be another dry day, the best of the brightness across parts of the west, and not feeling quite as warm as it did this afternoon, highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the southeast. Now, as we head into Saturday, we'll start to see this change. This frontal system pushing in from the west, at times bringing some quite persistent and heavy outbreaks of rain. At first into Northern Ireland and then pushing its way eastwards into western Scotland, western parts of England and Wales, where it could linger through much of the day. But most of the east should be mostly dry and bright. And then it looks like turning brighter as we head into next week. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christys tonight, and here We do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Alex Armstrong in for Patrick Christys. Have you ever considered a holiday to Afghanistan?
Hey, guy. Oh, are you talking about these guys?
Yeah, my friends.
Oh, these are your friends? Oh, okay.
Ah, yes. Well, where do you think an Afghan migrant went on holiday recently? I'll reveal all shortly, and...
Of pure ideology, where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests, obeying contradictory thoughts.
Digital ID is a dangerous scam that will do nothing to stop the boats. Well, Orwell wrote the book 1984 as a warning of this kind of tyranny, but it seems Blair and Starmer are using it as a manual, doesn't it? Also...
Today, in 2020, I cannot reconcile this being part of the British Empire, particularly in light of what happened last week. So I'm returning it.
Well, fashion-lovey and ex-wife of Colin Firth handed back her MBE in fury over President Trump's state visit. Are these people just absolutely pathetic? Plus, Starmer wants to protect the ECHR by throwing our veterans to the dogs, stripping them of their immunity during the Troubles. Why is the ECHR coming before British people again? And as 1 in 4 Brits think diversity schemes are bad for white people, is the tide turning on woke DEI schemes? Also...
I said to you that swans were being eaten in royal parks in this country, that carp were being taken out of ponds and eaten in this country by people who come from cultures that have a different... Would you agree it's happening here?
I've certainly read... I didn't know...
Well, you might not be wrong, but is reform leaning into conspiracy theories too much? Dame Andrea Jenkins joins me to discuss it. And on my panel tonight is senior reporter at Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley, Tory peer Lord Bailey and former Labour advisor Matthew Larser. And what's going on here?
Didn't get any sleep last night. My boyfriend confirmed to me that he wants to vote reform, and we had a pretty big argument.
Blimey. Well, your Thursday night starts right now.
Good evening, it's 2 minutes past 9. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. GB News sources understand that every adult in Britain will require a new government-issued digital ID card under plans to be set out by Sir Keir Starmer. The Prime Minister is expected to announce the move in a bid to tackle illegal immigration. It's understood Sir Keir Starmer will outline the details in a speech tomorrow. Plans for what's being called a Brit card will be subject to consultation and will require legislation. Under the proposal, anyone starting a new job would be required to show the digital ID, which would then be automatically checked against a database of those who are entitled to live and work in the UK. The leader of the Conservatives, Kemi Badenoch, has branded the move a desperate gimmick to stop the small boats, while the Liberal Democrats said that they cannot support a mandatory digital ID. Reform UK say it's a cynical ploy to fool voters that something is being done about illegal immigration. Elsewhere today, the Home Office has confirmed 7 migrants have now been flown to France under the partial returns deal after a Sudanese national was returned today. The latest deportations also included an Afghan and a Somali national, following returns last week of people from Iran, Eritrea, India and Afghanistan. The pilot scheme, agreed with France in July, allows small boat arrivals to be detained and sent back across the Channel in exchange for the same number approved through safe and legal routes. The first arrivals under the deal, a family of 3 with a young child, landed in Britain yesterday. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has insisted he will lead from the front into the next general election amid speculation about the future of his premiership. His comments to regional broadcasters come as Andy Burnham says Labour MPs have urged him to challenge Sir Keir Starmer for the party leadership. The Prime Minister has dismissed what he calls the personal ambitions of the Greater Manchester Mayor. Mr Burnham, meanwhile, says he's ready to play any role as Labour faces what he calls an existential threat. In further interviews today, Sir Keir Starmer has said Donald Trump's claim that London wants to go to Sharia law is ridiculous nonsense, adding that he will, quote, call out the president over his comments when he next sees him. The taxi driver who dropped off the Southport killer at a dance class where he murdered 3 children has told a public inquiry he regrets not calling the police sooner. Driver Gary Poland did not call emergency services until 50 minutes after hearing screams at the heart space. Giving evidence to the Southport inquiry today, Mr Poland said he threatened to call the police when the perpetrator of the attack ignored his requests to pay, but thought he'd gone to get money from the building where the Taylor Swift-themed dance class was being held. He added he thought that there was a gunman and that he could be a target. Elsie Stankham, BB King and Alice de Silva Aguiar were murdered in the attack last year. And a gang of cybercriminals claim that they've stolen the pictures, names and addresses of around 8,000 children from a nursery chain. The hackers are reportedly using the highly sensitive information to demand a ransom from Kido, a nursery company which has 18 sites in the UK. The National Cybersecurity Centre say the reports are deeply distressing, with full guidance published on their website. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Let's go back to Alex.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, when you think of Afghanistan, you might think it's a bit like this. Well, that's sort of what an Afghan illegal migrant who claimed asylum in the UK told us when he claimed his country was so dangerous under the Taliban that he had to flee for safety.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We have one message for America.
Welcome to Afghanistan.
What's up, Yusuf?
And the American souvenir.
Oh, it's not even on safety right now.
Yeah, that's an actual video made by the Taliban to promote tourism in Afghanistan. And you know what? I thought the start of it was actually kind of funny, I have to say it. But anyway, let's face it, why wouldn't you want to go on holiday to Afghanistan, eh?
Hey, guy. Oh, are you talking about these guys? Oh, these are your friends. Oh, okay.
Glorious, glorious stuff. Women fully covered head to toe in niqabs in 40-degree heat, while the lads have fun splashing around in pedalos with AK-47s. That's a big step up from Butlins, isn't it? I would have said jokes aside, but this entire story really is a laughingstock. According to The Sun, DG Osama, the man who in 2022 came all the way to Britain to escape his oppressive regime, took a holiday back to his homeland. Here's some snaps of his time abroad. And hopefully we can see that. There he is. Yeah, there he is on the lovely blue waters there, gliding his hands through the water as he relaxes in Afghanistan. And we've got another one coming up for you. Here he is again outside of a mosque. He looks very oppressed here, doesn't he? Well, The Sun are also reporting Osama also shared videos of French cities, Paris, Calais and Annecy. And he also allegedly posted from Switzerland and Bulgaria, where he was said to be involved, get this, in pro-Afghanistan marches at the same time as when the Taliban retook control of Kabul in 2021. So it looks like he might have travelled through at least 3 safe countries before choosing to continue his journey to the UK. It looks like he's now deleted his social media account, so we haven't been able to reach him for comment. But I'd be very keen to hear what he has to say about all of this. Also, what about those 3 Kurdish Iranian lads who washed up on small boats wailing about persecution from the mullahs in Iran? Well, according to the Daily Express, an asylum accommodation whistleblower claims they scarpered back to Iran for month-long jaunts last year, one for a full 2 months in April. And don't get me started on the Christmas con artists. Border Force Police Chief Phil Douglas spilled the beans at Luton Airport back in 2023.
I don't know if we found anyone today, but we do find a lot of people who, for example, have claimed asylum in this country and are heading back to their home country for holidays, which obviously isn't allowed.
I mean, it's a joke, isn't it? It's even worse with some of the Afghan ARAP evacuees that we airlifted out. A whistleblower, ex-interpreter, claims hundreds are zipping back for jolly holidays. And look, whilst I've made a little bit light of this situation, because, like, let's face it, if you don't laugh, you're going to cry, this case is really quite a slap in the face for British people, many of whom are struggling to make ends meet. Isn't it about time we ended this absolute farce of open borders? It seems to me that most of the people coming to this country aren't fleeing for their safety, but because they know we are a soft touch. I say start the mass deportations right now. Now, I get my thoughts of my panel here. Conservative peer Sean Bailey, senior reporter at Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley, and former Labour advisor Matthew Larzer. Sean, I've got to start with you because, you know, you're a Tory peer, all right? And this sort of started to explode under the last Conservative government. And we've got to be fair. Like, you know, Labour, of course, are going to say this was their problem, this was the Tory problem, we're cleaning it up. But it still makes a mockery, doesn't it? It still makes a mockery of our country, of the Home Office. And as that former Border Force Chief Inspector said, he sees hundreds of people doing it. This is just one case I'm pulling out here.
It has to be clear everybody has failed in immigration, and Labour have been in too long now to blame it on anybody else. The Tories have put their hands up. Kemi has said she do very different things, and that's a fact. But what's most troubling here is I sit and listen to people speak in the House and other places, and they don't seem to understand that it is possible that people will take advantage of our kindness and our system, and that's what we're seeing now. Now, we've happened to catch this individual out because he's an idiot. But there's the rest of them who are not. We should be checking. And the notion that you can come here with no documents, I've always found a little bit funny, because the thing about oppressive regimes, they're very fond of documents. So people should have some. But the point being this, does the Home Office routinely check who is coming in and out if they're claiming asylum? They absolutely should.
And they clearly don't. I mean, it's unbelievable that he was able to go back to Afghanistan but also come back here. You must have a passport. They must know, you know, they must have records of this. But it's because obviously the civil service is riddled with left-wing ideology, and they don't seem to care about tracking and tracking these people, but also looking after taxpayer cash. I mean, for example, obviously we give £2,000 to everyone that that sign up for voluntary returns. The Home Office doesn't even centrally hold data on how much money we have spent on handing out taxpayer cash to voluntary returns. It's just unbelievable. Really, I think it's rooted in the civil service. It's not just the government and who's in power at the moment. They need to root it out.
Yeah, Matthew, I mean, the Home Secretary, you'd expect, she's been coming out with strong language, and you'd hope that you'd look at this story and rather than spending her time calling people far right, which she's been doing the last couple of days, she'd go, look, my focus is all on solving this crisis. It doesn't seem to me that anyone in the government has a grip on how bad this is and how much of a mockery it makes of British people who are struggling. They're going to be expected to pay more taxes at the end of this year, which will inevitably fund some of these programmes. We've spent billions covering up the ARAP scandal. How much more can British people take?
Well, I think all the new Home Secretary has been good at is when she hears about nonsenses, she acts. So hopefully, the fact that this is now in the media, this particular dodge has been highlighted again. Action will be taken. I think it's a systematic failure. I'm guessing that what happens is that because they've effectively been given a British passport, because they don't have any other passport, they just come in through the automatic gates. Yeah. So nobody checks. So can't we just do a simple change, which is anybody who has been granted asylum has to go for a manual check? You would think that would just be one thing on the chip.
isn't the whole point of the gates that they have some sort of digital information?
Yeah, so I think is they're not putting onto the passport the fact that they need to be checked, see where they've been.
But here's the thing, it makes a mockery. We have a proud tradition of bringing people in who need that support. This dismantles that trust. But what's important now is that they have to put in a mechanism to go back and check, not just going forward. This information exists. We know who comes in and out of the country, or at least we hope we do, through the airlines. They should check. And if you have been back, particularly if you've been back to the country where you were granted asylum from, it should end. We have to send a message. Asylum is for people who need it. Anybody who's cheating the system is...
I think you're right. I think we should also put a duty on airlines. You know, particularly when you're flying long haul, your passport is checked many times, not just a photo, but also to check that you've got the right visa, etc. Nobody should be getting on a flight from a country, even if it's a connecting flight from a country, because under the rules, this is not allowed. It's not like the rules allow this. This is against the rules. Nobody's enforcing the rules. They have to be, and you need to employ airlines, technology, and border force.
I honestly don't think you should be allowed to leave the country until your asylum claim's been dealt with, and even after then, if you're going back to the country that you've claimed to...
That is banned under the rules. That is banned under the rules.
Just be immediately void yours.
It has to be consequences.
But the story you're referencing, I think, was Sky News that reported that there are hundreds of Afghans that have come here via the relocation scheme and then gone back on holiday. The former interpreter that was the whistleblower said the only threat is unemployment. And that's why they're coming here. And the thing is, it's about supply and demand. I mean, we have the supply, we have endless freebies that obviously we've been chronicling a lot of, discounts on Lime bikes, beach huts even, let alone the four-star hotels,
we saw the
NHS
other day.
taxis, absolutely. So, of course, they're going to take us sort of mugs.
And that's a problem, isn't it? I sit and I listen to people speak, and this really frustrates me. They speak about as if every claim is pure and clean and true, and it simply isn't the case. I would guess there's a large amount of claims that are actually bogus, and we should have mechanisms to catch those people, because what it is, if you don't have the mechanism, you attract more and more people to chance their arm. We need to have a little bit more scepticism in the system.
Of course,
I think we need some...
Matthew, can I just ask you, because obviously this bloke we're talking about, DG Osama, he actually came in under the last Tory government, so this is something that's been ongoing.
Absolutely.
We know it's not a Tory thing or a Labour problem, it's a systematic issue with the way the government works. Who is going to get a grip of this? I mean, do you really believe Shabana Mahmood is going to be the one to get a grip of this where the Tories could fail?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think, for example, on the taxi situation, she's ordered an immediate inquiry. She wants it to stop. Obviously, it takes a... we need to go back. We need to go back and check that it has stopped.
But why is it only the press that are bringing to light these things? Why is the government finding out themselves?
Because what I was about to say is, because I think you're right, that it happened under the Tories, and it has obviously happened under the first 18 months or less of the Labour government. But I think what it is where's the common sense in these officials? Who actually sits and signs this off? It's not even a lefty conspiracy. It's just that there's no mechanism.
No, they are acting out of the environment they have. And when these officials bring to other officials, they all nod sagely.
That's got to stop.
What needs to happen is there needs to be political oversight. And I think you're both wrong. Everybody in the political sphere has failed here, because when the Tories are in government, they did anything. Labour said we were racist. And when the Labour are in government and they do anything, we say they're useless. Actually, people just need to step back and they need to talk to the civil service and say it is in your best interests to get this right, because if you don't, we'll make the change.
And the civil service needs to pay a price.
Do we trust the blob of the civil service to get anything done? That's the problem.
No, there needs to be root and branch reform in the civil service. But Labour make a lot of noise about all of this. We've seen the one-in, one-out migrant deal. I mean, that's really not a deterrent at all when it's maybe 50 migrants, if we're lucky. So far, it's been 7. OK, well done.
It's not really one in, one out either. It's basically nil pois.
Well, exactly. But it's not enough of a deterrent, is it?
Yeah,
so, and Shabana might be making a lot of noise about it and saying we will absolutely crack down on this, etc., etc. We haven't really seen much change. And by the way, when she announces that we will put visa, sort of visa.
Regulations,
yes, exactly. Restrictions on countries that don't play ball, is what she's saying. That's been a policy since 2022 and it's never been used. So how can we trust that this government will use it?
Yeah. Matthew, final quick thought from you, because Big question I have is where did he get the money to go on this flight? We know Emirates are flying out to Kabul, I think it's once a day, perhaps. So if he got on an Emirates flight to Afghanistan, I can't imagine it's cheap.
Well, I think that's a perfectly legitimate question. I mean, look, absolutely. The thing is, Shabana Mahmood, as Home Secretary, is making the right noises. We need to make sure that she makes the right actions and that what she's talked about actually happens. Because, as you say, these systematic errors that have been pointed out, they need to be stopped. Yeah. Let's hope at last it happens.
All right, well, moving on, a Home Office spokesperson has said this. Whilst we do not comment on individual cases where there is some evidence of someone holding protection status returning to their country of origin, it will trigger a review of their status. Well, there you have it. Well, did it happen? We'll find out. Anyway, time for our latest Great British giveaway now, and it's our biggest prize to date, worth over 100 grand. It includes a 4-berth motorhome worth over 74k and 30 grand in tax-free cash. Here's the details.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Oh, well, look, good luck, everybody. Coming up.
Today in 2020, I cannot reconcile this being part of the British Empire, particularly in light of what happened last week. So I'm returning it.
Well, that was fashion-loving and ex-wife of Colin Firth ripping up her MBE in outrage because President Trump came for a state visit last week. But isn't the lefty rage at the US leader just completely pathetic? Well, that's my opinion. That's next.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live, every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
I do not see a single benefit to the government having digital ID other than them controlling what we do, what we spend and where we go. And we in Reform are wholly opposed to it in every single way.
Yes, this is Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong, and that, of course, was Nigel Farage's reaction to the news that the Prime Minister will make digital ID cards compulsory. Trust me, more on that later, but now it's time for our head-to-head. And Colin Firth's ex-wife and eco-warrior, Livia, has dramatically returned her MBE.
Today, in 2020, I cannot reconcile this being part of the British Empire, particularly in light of what happened last week. So I'm returning it. This is my certificate. Accept it.
Honestly, I mean, you can't make it up. They're so childish. Anyway, the eco-fashion campaigner was given the award in 2019 for services in trying to make fashion supply safer. But she says her decision to hand it back is in protest at what she calls the UK's appeasement of President Donald Trump. She specifically singled out King Charles, accusing him of legitimising and amplifying the US president's poisonous rhetoric. Olivia splits from Colin Firth in 2019 after a brief affair with an Italian journalist who she initially accused of stalking her in a bid to cover up the fling. But tonight I'm asking, is the left-wing outrage over President Trump completely pathetic? And going to head-to-head on this now, our political commentator and Conservative councillor David Moore and the CEO of Republic, Graham Smith. Graham, I'll start with you. Look, the King is a ceremonial head of state. He is not choosing to meet with Donald Trump. He does what the government tell him to do. So this whole thing, she's got it wrong from the offset. How can the King appease anybody when he has no power to say no to it?
Well, you've just highlighted the pointlessness of the monarchy, that you get a head of state who can do nothing other than parrot the line of the elected Prime Minister. But the Windsor family, including Charles, have a very long-standing relationship with the Trump family, going back decades. And I think that regardless of who organised the visit and whether or not Charles had any particular say in how it was conducted, and it has been suggested that he takes keen interest in the details of these things, I think that there is evidence that it has gone down very badly in seeing him so close and friendly with Trump. Trump is, widely held in contempt in this country. He's a pretty appalling individual. He's, convicted felon in the United States, and he stands, well apart from the values of most people in this country, whether they're left, right, centre, whatever. So, it's entirely understandable that someone would object strongly to not just to Charles standing alongside him, but the fact that this government and the British state rolled out the red carpet and the gold carriage to entertain this individual who, really is held in pretty low esteem by most people.
Oh, all right, well, I'll pass it over to you, David, because, I understand what you're trying to say, Graham, but I completely disagree. At the end of the day, the United States of America is the most powerful country in the world economically. It's not really down to Keir Starmer. So we have to do a trade deal with these people. Is this left-wing, just left-wing, far-left outrage, David? Let's go back to you, Graham. I think we've lost David for a second there. So, Graham, do you just think this is just like, you know, a small group of people? I mean, this is very, very... It does seem to me a little bit childish, Graham, for someone to rip up such a huge honour, because you're not just being honoured by the King, you're being honoured by the entire state. This is on behalf of the British people. Surely there should be at least some form. Why don't she use her MBE as a way to get the conversation going about these things?
Well, she's getting a conversation going about it by returning it. Refuse them. The honour system has been pretty debased by politicians over the last few decades, and it's not particularly honourable in the first place. And I would suggest that people refuse to accept them right from the offset. But if people have accepted them, and I've read her reasons for doing so, it's entirely reasonable to reject them when you feel so strongly about what that state that has rewarded you is doing. It's not new. It's not the first time it's happened. I've not seen someone do it quite so.
We were talking about celebrity, because these MBs are often handed out to the most wealthy people in the country, and you do have a point there, Graham, about the sort of people who get these MBEs. They often are, in my opinion, just celebrities who have just been, sort of grifting their way to the top. I mean, I appreciate this woman here was the wife of Colin Firth, but she also made her own business. And I feel like receiving that kind of honour on behalf of the British people is something that you should treasure, regardless of not whether you like the President of the United States. We should respect the office of the President of the United States, and we've just got a trade deal out of it. Many people will point to the good things that come out of these state visits. If it wasn't Trump doing it, it would be if it wasn't the King doing it, it'd be the Prime Minister.
It's arguable that a political visit would have had the same result, and that it didn't require a state visit. I think the state visit was completely unnecessary, incredibly expensive, the thing that really only pandered to Trump's ego. I think it sends all the wrong messages about where we stand in the world, and we should be able to have the strength and the backbone to make more serious decisions and to not to roll out the red carpet for this man. But the honour system isn't just about the corruption of it isn't simply by handing them out to all these wealthy celebrities. All of that is designed to try and make it look more acceptable, so that they can continue to hand them out to their political allies, to senior civil servants, and all the rest of it. It is a system of patronage which corrupts our political system. So the whole thing is a bit of a sham in the first place. And I would argue that people who are offered them, who have done good works, should decline them and say thank you very much. But I will wait until the honour system is actually honourable before I consider taking such a medal from the state.
All right. Well, Graham Smith, there, CEO of Republic. Thank you for coming on, giving a good-hearted debate on this topic. Really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on board. I fundamentally disagree. I mean, I think the honour system is important in this country, and there's some points he made that were good. I think there is a little bit of corruption there, things we could do better. But overall, it's not the King's fault. I mean, he's just unfortunate. That's just his job. Anyway, coming up. Yeah, this is a serious story. Northern Ireland veterans are taking the government to court over the decision to scrap them of their immunity for any crimes they might have committed during the Troubles. First, it was the pensioners, then it was the farmers. Is the Prime Minister coming for our veterans next? I'll find out shortly.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're wondering where's good for the weather or heading south during the next few days, be aware there's a next hurricane approaching Portugal whilst it's staying breezy through Greece, particularly the Greek islands. Nothing too unusual about that. But for Italy, increasingly unsettled, some heavy rain and thunderstorms, particularly towards the south, and for Sicily. Across Iberia, settled on Saturday, but here's that ex-hurricane likely to bring some strong winds and heavy rain into Portugal in particular later in the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead, it's set to be another dry day tomorrow, then a change over the weekend. It's likely we'll see some outbreaks of rain push in from the west. That's all due to low pressure moving its way in from the Atlantic as high pressure slips away off to the east. And as it does so, it does bring in a slight change in our wind direction, more south to southeasterly flow. So we'll see more cloud push into parts of East Anglia, Sussex and Kent. This may produce some showers, also some showers possible across Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. But elsewhere, mostly dry, plenty of clear skies. So it's likely we'll see some mist and fog once again during the morning. Also some isolated rural frost, but most towns and cities remaining in the mid to high single figures. Now, to start the day across Scotland, yes, it will be mostly dry, but it's going to be fairly gusty, particularly around western coasts. A chance of some coastal gales here. So it's unlikely to see any mist or fog during the morning, so mostly bright but breezy start, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland too. But across the rest of England and Wales, once again, it could be fairly chilly. Some mist and fog, particularly around any valleys. Not feeling quite as cold, though, across parts of the southeast. More cloud here. And as we progress through the course of the day, this cloud will spread its way further inland. So it's likely that sunshine will turn more hazy in nature, and once again this cloud could be thick enough to produce the odd isolated shower. But for most it should be another dry day, the best of the brightness across parts of the west, and not feeling quite as warm as it did this afternoon, highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the southeast. Now, as we head into Saturday, we'll start to see this change. This frontal system pushing in from the west, at times bringing some quite persistent and heavy outbreaks of rain. At first into Northern Ireland and then pushing its way eastwards into western Scotland, western parts of England and Wales, where it could linger through much of the day. But most of the east should be mostly dry and bright. And then it looks like turning brighter as we head into next week. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
I do not see a single benefit to the government having digital ID other than them controlling what we do, what we spend and where we go. And we, in Reform, are wholly opposed to it in every single way.
All right, welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. And of course, that was Nigel Farage's reaction to the news. The Prime Minister will make digital ID cards compulsory. There's currently a petition going around. It's gaining about 1,000 signatures a minute. It's at 300,000 now. Well, there we go. But first, Labour's plan to scrap immunity for veterans who risked their lives to fight in Northern Ireland will be challenged in the Supreme Court next month. The protection for veterans was brought in by the Conservatives in 2023, the Legacy Act. But the Northern Ireland Secretary, Hilary Benn, has pledged to scrap it when Labour won the election last year. The government claims immunity provisions are, guess what, incompatible with the European Convention on Human Rights and therefore have to be rescinded. But lawyers representing the Northern Ireland Veterans Movement have vowed to challenge the claim in Britain's highest court next month. Well, joining me now to discuss this, former Army British Colonel who served in Northern Ireland, Philip Ingram, MBE. Philip, thank you so much for joining me. When I saw this story, I was outraged. Tell me about what your feelings are as a former veteran, as a veteran, and as someone who served in Northern Ireland, and what's the reaction been amongst other veterans?
Well, I've not just served in Northern Ireland. I come from Northern Ireland, so it is very personal to me. You know, I personally think that any British military person that has exceeded their remit and committed a crime should be prosecuted. However, what we're seeing at the minute are double standards, because Tony Blair brought in on-the-run letters for members of the terror organisations, the IRA in particular in Northern Ireland, which give terrorists immunity from prosecution. And if you're giving terrorists immunity from prosecution, then trying to prosecute British military personnel for crimes that they may have committed. And we have to remember that 99.999999999% of British military personnel that deployed in Northern Ireland operated completely within a legal framework. 100% of terrorists operated within an illegal framework. But continuing to prosecute British soldiers in an environment where you've already given those that have committed crimes immunity is immoral. And that's the line that's there. Tony Blair drew the line. That line should be for all. It shouldn't be just for terrorists and not British military personnel.
Yeah, well, the government, of course, are saying this is incompatible with the European Convention on Human Rights. Now, of course, the Tories put in legislation that went against that theory. Is this another example? Because we do accuse the government often of siding with bureaucrats and legislators and lawyers abroad in these big international super bodies. Is this another example, in your opinion, of a government who is more willing to look out for those institutions than it is for British veterans and people?
Oh, 100%. And if what the government is saying is this is against the European Convention on Human Rights, then the on-the-run letters that Tony Blair brought in contravene the European Convention on Human Rights and therefore should be nullified immediately. And those that have been given immunity should be prosecuted and brought back into prisons and locked up for their terrorist and criminal offences. This is where there are double standards. You've got two-tier care providing his opinion on human rights, once again putting British military personnel in a position where all they've been trying to do is live up to with the rules that they've been asked to try and keep local communities safe, and they've been prosecuted for it. Now, there's a very small number of British military personnel who will have committed crimes in Northern Ireland, and I think they should have been prosecuted, or more appropriately, when we're looking at, and this comes down a lot of the time in arguments with the Republicans to the Bloody Sunday issues, actually it's the commanders that were responsible for not taking control of the troops at the time on the ground. It's not down to Soldier F, who is currently in court. It's down to his platoon commander, his company commander, his commanding officer, who did not have the right command and control at the time, and they're the ones that should be held responsible. But this is where we've lost reality when it comes to the issues that are being applied.
Yeah, I know. You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to ask, do you think it's the veterans that are responsible here? But you've answered that question for me. Do you think this is going to open old wounds that have only really recently started healing? Because, of course, communities in Northern Ireland are still heavily divided, many of them. By doing this, is this just maybe not a cynical attempt, but an attempt indirectly to reopen those wounds?
Well, it hasn't reopened them. They've already been opened. And unfortunately, the Republicans that are pushing this have seen an opportunity, and they're continually keeping those wounds open. So you're finding that the IRA, Sinn Féin supporters of the Republican activity that went on through the Troubles in Northern Ireland that caused so many problems. And we have to remember here that the IRA or Sinn Féin are very quick at trying to quote and say that the British military carried out attacks purely against Northern Irish Catholics and everything else. The organisation that killed more Irish Catholics in Northern Ireland was the IRA themselves. And people forget about that. And they forget that it was the IRA that caused more devastation across the civilian infrastructure in Northern Ireland. And that is being forgotten. And we're allowing that change in, or that addressing of history by Sinn Féin IRA to happen. We have to stop this. You know, the logic is there. We should be turning around and calling them out instead of pandering to what they want to carry out in the courts.
Indeed. Well, Philip Ingram there, former British Army colonel who, of course, served and is from Northern Ireland. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Thank you. A government spokesperson has said this. The government's appeal in this case relates to issues and principles that go beyond the previous government's flawed Legacy Act. These include the disclosure of sensitive information, next of kin participation, and the disapplication of provisions under the Windsor Framework. Any government would have had to replace the failed Legacy Act that was rejected by our domestic courts and opposed by victims who lost loved ones to terrorist atrocities. Our replacement Legacy Framework will deliver 6 new rights and protections for our veterans, remedying the undeliverable promises made by previous governments so that those who served in Northern Ireland are no longer exposed to legal uncertainty. OK, well, there you have it. Coming up, 1 in 4 Brits now thinks diversity schemes are bad for white people. So, is the tide turning on woke DEI schemes? I'll find out next.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Christys here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dawdney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's News Channel.
Welcome back to the show. Patrick Christys tonight, of course, with me, Alex Armstrong. Well, a new study has revealed that diversity, equity and inclusion schemes are becoming less popular with the British public. A poll of just over 4,000 Brits found that 23% believe such initiatives are bad for white people and 15% say they are bad for the working class. Well, since President Trump's return to the White House, major companies have begun rolling back their diversity schemes. In February, British drug maker GSK said it would no longer set diversity hiring targets. Elsewhere, big law firms like Linklaters, Ashurst and Freshfield all abandoned their rainbow logos during Pride Week this year. Wow, what a turnaround, eh? I'm now joined by social policy analyst Dr. Rakib Hassan. Dr. Rakib, thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Yeah, I mean, look, it does seem to be this feeling that President Trump has ushered in like an anti-woke era. Is that the sense you get? And do you think the tide is turning in Britain as well?
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Alex. I think that Donald Trump's return to the White House as President of the United States has been a real game changer when it comes to what I consider to be the unholy trinity of diversity, equality and inclusion. Listen, on the surface, that these words, people would broadly support them. They would support fostering a more inclusive and welcoming workforce. But I think the problem that we have here is that when you look at DEI in practice, whether it's in the United States or in the UK, because to be honest, many of the DEI policies that we see in the UK, they're ultimately been directly imported from the United States. It goes against what I'd consider to be that British traditional value of fair play. It runs against equality of opportunity. And I think that when you look at these recent polling figures, I think that there's many people, they've cottoned on to the fact that I wouldn't even use the term reverse discrimination. It is just plain discrimination. And I think that in many cases, when you look at DI policies across a variety of industries, it's ultimately about treating minorities as beneficiaries of preferential treatment. And I think that's why you see a number of the public now, I think according to this poll, 1 in 4 people thinking that white people are disadvantaged by DEI. So I think much of the British public now is really waking up to what I consider to be a scourge in British society.
Yeah, and of course we go back to that very specific part of the poll there, where people feel it's bad for white people, and I kind of understand that. When you look at like West Yorkshire Police, I think they had a non-white recruitment profile. MI6, MI5. These are government-run institutions. They're taxpayer funded. Do you think that the reason why? I specifically talk about the government-funded institutions because, of course, taxpayers will ask, well, surely I just want the best person for the job, especially when it comes to police and intelligence, right? Do you think there's politicians are slightly to blame for this, including the Tories and Labour, because, of course, a lot of this happened underneath the Tory government, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think more generally, what we've seen, Alex, we've seen the rise of the classist multicultural state. And I think that when you see many of these DI policies, I do think that it's white British working class males who are all too often portrayed as these sort of bastions of advantage, when quite often they live in some of the most underprivileged communities in our country. And I think that's a real problem I have with DEI. There seems to be this prevailing obsession with race, sex and also sexual orientation and indeed gender reassignment. I think in some cases people have completely forgotten that disability is a forgotten characteristic. When I've inspected DI policies across a number of sectors and industries, disability barely features. And I think that's a crying shame, because I think we should be focusing more on how we maximise the potential of people who are living with disabilities and want to do better for themselves. But I think the big word here that's missing from many DEI strategies that I've come across is class. Social class isn't a protected characteristic under existing equalities legislation. But if you see when we've done polling in the UK, time and again, the British public is far more likely to say that social class, your network and connections, are far more influential in shaping life chances, influencing the trajectory of one's life compared to their racial identity. But you wouldn't think that based on these DEI policies that we've come across.
Yeah, and briefly, do you think that all these DEI programmes have hurt race relations in our country? Because I do get the sense from some people, they feel that, as you pointed out, some people from different races and backgrounds get preferential treatment because of the way they were born.
No, absolutely. I think that, just to put it bluntly, I think DEI is ultimately something that we've directly imported from the United States. They're struggling there with the legacy of slavery and segregation there in the United States. I think that some of the racial discourse there is absolutely toxic. And I think that I'd like Britain to insulate itself from that and keep the focus on equality of opportunity. And I think the two main barriers, I'll make this very quickly, that we have when it comes to social mobility, that's ultimately based on class and also regional inequality. And I think that we really need to work on solving those things.
Yeah, well, Dr. Rakib Hassan, thank you so much for joining me. A pleasure as ever. And I think this conversation is going to go on because I do think that the UK is a little bit far behind here, at least compared to where America is today. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Well, coming up at 10 p.m.
Digital ID will make our interactions with each other and with the state faster, cheaper, and more reliable.
Well, we keep on hearing different reasons why this digital ID is going to benefit our lives. It seems to me that Tony Blair's trying to sell it because it's convenient for you. What do you think at home? I want to know what you think. Get in touch with me, gbnews.com/YourSay. I'll try and get some of your thoughts out in the next hour or so. Because to me, this is one of the most sinister, dangerous policies that could ever be inflicted upon the British people. We all knew and we all know how it went with those COVID passports, don't we? And of course, you just saw there the ghost of Tony Blair haunting and hijacking the Prime Minister, who's clearly a very feeble Prime Minister right now, isn't he? He is literally clutching at every desperate last straw to distract away from what's going on with Andy Burnham. Anyway, I'll explain all of that and so much more and why digital ID is so dangerous very, very soon. All of that and tomorrow's newspaper headlines are coming your way.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead, it's set to be another dry day tomorrow, then a change over the weekend. It's likely we'll see some outbreaks of rain push in from the west. That's all due to low pressure moving its way in from the Atlantic as high pressure slips away off to the east. And as it does so, it does bring in a slight change in our wind direction, more south to southeasterly flow. So we'll see more cloud push into parts of East Anglia, Sussex and Kent. This may produce some showers, also some showers possible across Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. But elsewhere, mostly dry, plenty of clear skies. So it's likely we'll see some mist and fog once again during the morning. Also some isolated rural frost, but most towns and cities remaining in the mid to high single figures. Now, to start the day across Scotland, yes, it will be mostly dry, but it's going to be fairly gusty, particularly around western coasts. A chance of some coastal gales here. So it's unlikely to see any mist or fog during the morning, so a mostly bright but breezy start, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland too. But across the rest of England and Wales, once again, it could be fairly chilly. Some mist and fog, particularly around any valleys. Not feeling quite as cold, though, across parts of the southeast. More cloud here. And as we progress through the course of the day, this cloud will spread its way further inland. So it's likely that sunshine will turn more hazy in nature, and once again this cloud could be thick enough to produce the odd isolated shower. But for most it should be another dry day, the best of the brightness across parts of the west, and not feeling quite as warm as it did this afternoon, highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the southeast. Now, as we head into Saturday, we'll start to see this change. This frontal system pushing in from the west, at times bringing some quite persistent and heavy outbreaks of rain. At first into Northern Ireland and then pushing its way eastwards into western Scotland, western parts of England and Wales, where it could linger through much of the day. But most of the east should be mostly dry and bright. And then it looks like turning brighter as we head into next week. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 233 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello everybody, it's 10 p.m. I'm Alex Armstrong in for Patrick Christys tonight.
Of pure ideology, where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests, obeying contradictory.
Digital ID is a dangerous scam that will do nothing to stop the boats. Well, Orwell wrote a book on this, 1984, as a warning of this kind of tyranny. But it seems Blair and Starmer are using it as a manual, doesn't it? Also,
if I said to you that swans were being eaten in royal parks in this country, that carp were being taken out of ponds and eaten in this country by people who come from cultures that have a different... Would you agree it's happening here?
I've certainly read... I didn't know about...
you know, well, he might be right, but is reform leaning into conspiracy theories too much? Dame Andrea Jenkins is joining me to discuss it. And some breaking news on the front page of The Telegraph. The Prime Minister has finally admitted that Labour have got it wrong on migration. I'll reveal all when I bring you tomorrow's front pages with my panel tonight. It's senior reporter at Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley, Tory peer Lord Bailey and former Labour advisor Matthew Laza. Plus, what's going on here?
Didn't get any sleep last night. My boyfriend confirmed to me that he wants to vote reform, and we had a pretty big argument.
Your worst Orwellian nightmare is here. Your Thursday night starts right now. Next.
Good evening, it's 1 minute past 10. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB Newsroom. GB News sources understand that every adult in Britain will require a new government-issued digital ID card under plans to be set out by Sir Keir Starmer. The Prime Minister is expected to announce the move in a bid to tackle illegal immigration. It's understood Sir Keir Starmer will outline the details in a speech tomorrow. Plans for what's being called a Brit card will be subject to consultation and will require legislation. Under the proposal, anyone starting a new job would be required to show the digital ID, which would then be automatically checked against a database of people who are entitled to live and work in the UK. The leader of the Conservatives, Kemi Badenoch, has branded the move a desperate gimmick to stop the small boats, while the Liberal Democrats said that they cannot support a mandatory digital ID. Reform UK says it's a cynical ploy to fool voters that something is being done about illegal immigration. Elsewhere today, the Home Office has confirmed 7 migrants have now been flown to France under the partial returns deal after a Sudanese national was returned today. The latest deportations also included an Afghan and a Somali national, following returns last week of people from Iran, Eritrea, India and Afghanistan. The pilot scheme, agreed with France in July, allows small boat arrivals to be detained and sent back across the Channel in exchange for the same number approved through the safe and legal routes. The first arrivals under the deal, a family of 3 with a young child, landed in Britain yesterday. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has insisted he will lead from the front into the next general election amid speculation about the future of his premiership. His comments to regional broadcasters come as Andy Burnham says Labour MPs have urged him to challenge Sir Keir Starmer for the party leadership. The Prime Minister has dismissed what he calls the personal ambitions of the Greater Manchester Mayor. Mr Burnham, meanwhile, says he's ready to play any role as Labour faces what he calls an existential threat. In further interviews today, Sir Keir Starmer has said Donald Trump's claim that London wants to go to Sharia law is ridiculous nonsense, adding that he will, quote, call out the president over his comments when he next sees him. The taxi driver who dropped off the Southport killer at the dance class where he murdered 3 children has told a public inquiry he regrets not calling the police sooner. Driver Gary Poland did not call emergency services until 50 minutes after hearing screams at the heart space. Giving evidence to the Southport inquiry today, Mr Poland said he threatened to call the police when the perpetrator of the attack ignored his requests to pay, but thought he'd gone to get money from the building where the Taylor Swift-themed dance class was being held. He added that he thought there was a gunman and that he could be a target. Elsie Stankham, BB King and Alice De Silva Aguiar were murdered in the attack in July last year. And a gang of cybercriminals claim that they've stolen the pictures, names and addresses of around 8,000 children from a nursery chain. The hackers are reportedly using the highly sensitive information to demand a ransom from Kido, a nursery company which has 18 sites in the UK. The National Cybersecurity Centre say the reports are deeply distressing, with full guidance published on their website. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Alex.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, digital ID is one of the most dangerous threats to our hard-won freedoms. I am genuinely concerned that this could allow Orwellian governments to take full control of your lives for good.
Benefits are clear. Digital ID will make our interactions with each other and with the state faster, cheaper and more reliable.
Well, Tony Blair's ghost is back, haunting and hijacking a Prime Minister so feeble he's clutching at every desperate straw in sight. Well, digital ID is Keir Starmer's latest ploy to gaslight us into thinking he has the tough solutions to stop illegal migration. That is a baseless lie. Look at Germany, look at Sweden. Both have digital ID. Both are drowning in surges of illegal migration, far worse than when we have it here in the UK. And what else does this remind you of? Do you remember the COVID vaccine passports? Those smug little green screens that barred the unjabbed from everyday life, serving as a blatant Orwellian tool of coercion and division. They alienated those refusing a rushed medical experiment, the same medical experiment you were told was safe and so-called stopped the spread, which we now know was not entirely safe, nor was it nearly as effective as we were led to believe. Well, if you didn't take the government at face value, let alone dared challenge them, you faced life-changing decisions. Travel abroad or be grounded at home. Keep your job or face financial ruin. See your family or stay isolated alone. Those were some of the choices the government often told you had to make. Comply or shut up. Broadcasters even floated the grotesque idea of holding people down to forcibly jab them, or even shipping British people off to camps, all in the name of public safety. That is the raw, unchecked power governments can wield when given the tools, and digital ID hands them the sharpest blade possible. It paves the way for far worse down the line, doesn't it? One authoritarian regime later, and you, your children, and their children could face being sent to camps based on ethnicity, political views, religion, or even health status, as we've already seen. But why stop there? Why not seamlessly link your social media profiles, algorithmically scoring your influence and loyalty to the government, and roll out a full-blown social credit system while we're at it? Or one rogue tweet mocking net zero policies or questioning the narrative, well, zap, that's your train ticket evaporating in an instant, your bank account freezing without warning, and suddenly, before you know it, you're cast out of society, branded as an undesirable and forced to scrape by on the streets with no recourse. This happens in China. It sounds like fantasy, but it isn't. And I shudder to even paint this picture for you. But imagine a tin pot tyrant pitched up in Downing Street with his globalist handlers pulling their little strings from afar, twisting the dial on this dystopian nightmare. You know, you might be a Brexiteer with the wrong opinions. Well, you're confined to a so-called re-education camp. Your movement's tracked and curtailed like a common criminal. Wrong race, creed or ballot slip in the future, or your phone might buzz with a scarlet alert. Access denied. Citizen report immediately for reconditioning as doors to shops, hospitals and homes slam shut around you. I know it sounds a bit far-fetched, but this could happen, and it does happen in places around the world. And in my view, Tony Blair and Keir Starmer's insidious vision guts the fundamental rights our ancestors bled and toiled for, rights enshrined in the timeless ink of the Magna Carta, protections against arbitrary power that have stood as beacons for centuries. And digital ID flips the sacred presumption of innocence into one of constant, computerised suspicion. Show your papers on demand. Let cold, heartless computers and faceless bureaucrats dictate your legitimacy over your God-given right to move freely in your own country, speak your mind, or even access basic services like healthcare or education. It's all eerily foretold in George Orwell's 1984, a work that shifted from mere fantasy to a chilling prophecy of our end times, a stark warning on how to recognise and dodge the trap of encroaching evil before it swallows our country whole. Oh, people on the left and some on the so-called right are jumping for joy over this policy. They've heard these dire arguments and warnings time and time again, but simply do not care. They're blinded by the promises of people like Tony Blair who tell you it'll be efficient and you will have more security. We must reject this deep authoritarian creep outright, immediately, with every single voice and vote at our disposal before the door to reversal slams shut in your face forever. Well, before I get the thoughts of my panel, I'm joined now by the Liberal Democrat Attorney General spokesperson, Ben Maguire MP. Ben, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I wanted to paint a picture there of a future that is possible when you control people through digital identification. We've seen it used for very nefarious means in China, and it only takes one authoritarian regime, one elected person to become a dictator for this to go the wrong way, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's really concerning to hear these reports coming out of Downing Street tonight that they're going to introduce this mandatory, it's really important to stress that point, mandatory digital ID scheme. Obviously, you know, I'm the MP for North Cornwall. That's a particularly rural area. Not everyone in that constituency has access to smartphones, to computers, digital resources. So if the government really does bring this in as a mandatory scheme, it's really concerning from that perspective as well, because it's looking potentially to lock out older people, disabled people, those who maybe can't afford a smartphone. So it's really, really concerning if this is going to be the future of our country. We're going to have these digital ID cards, which will have things potentially like our bank details, our healthcare data. It really, really is a concern.
Yeah, indeed. Would you, as Liberal Democrats, if you were, let's just assume you potentially might become into a coalition with Labour, would you stop these sorts of things, perhaps even if you were the government? Would you reverse them if they do come into effect before the next election?
Yeah, it's really difficult, obviously, to speculate on what we would do in government, but certainly this would be a really important point of contention for us. And certainly as the opposition, we're essentially the main opposition now. The Tories seem to have given up on holding the government to account. So it's down to us Liberal Democrats to do that. And this will certainly be something we will be holding the Labour government's feet to the fire on. And can I just add as well, the cost of this scheme at a time when we're constantly told by Rachel Reeves and the government that we don't have money for really vital public services like healthcare. Obviously, down in my neck of the woods, we really desperately need better transport infrastructure. And yet here we see the government ready to splash hundreds of millions of pounds potentially on a digital ID scheme. Is that really what people in this country want right now?
No, I think it's totally bonkers. Ben Maguire MP, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Liberal Democrat Attorney General spokesperson there as well. Well, let's get the thoughts of my panel now. Conservative peer Sean Bailey, senior reporter for Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley, and former Labour advisor Matthew Laza. Ellie, I'll start with you. I find these kind of policies absolutely terrifying. The most important thing I want to stress to the public was that they never got to vote on this. This was not in Labour's manifesto. There's no national conversation had. Keir Starmer's just announcing it.
I totally agree with you. This was not in their Labour manifesto. Yvette Cooper and Reynolds, they were both saying in July last year that we can rule this idea out. They've totally U-turned on that. And also, it's a honeypot for hacks, not just a slippery slope towards a social credit system, etc. There's no mandate for this. And I think, actually, that if, depending on what the government actually announces tomorrow, I think there will be a serious rebellion against this amongst Labour MPs as well, because think about the Red Wall MPs, the Labour ones. Their constituents do not want this government overreach. So I reckon Starmer will have a difficult time trying to get this through, and hopefully it will be blocked.
Matthew, I'll come to you because, look, this is not going to stop the boats. This is not going to stop illegal migration. We cannot gaslight the public. We take Germany, Sweden, anywhere else in Europe that's got digital ID for the Prime Minister to use this as a tool to say, we know this migration problem's bad, but digital ID will fix it, is nonsense, isn't it?
Well, I don't think anybody's saying digital ID alone will fix it, but yes, absolutely. It's the lack of an ID card here is a major pull factor because we just look at the number of people who are working illegally. One of the reasons is...
What do the current rules do that the digital ID...
OK, let's just address a few points. You were saying that the people in the Red Wall don't want it. In fact, a whole group of Red Wall MPs called to have a digital ID.
Yeah. I just want to play a clip quickly. The cracks are obviously starting to show in the Tory party on this issue. Shadow Secretary of State for Business and Trade, Andrew Griffiths, spoke to Chris Hope earlier.
Full statement from Kemi Badenoch is this. She calls it a desperate gimmick that will do nothing to stop the boats, and then says this. There are arguments for and against digital ID, but mandating its use will be a serious step that requires a proper national debate. Why doesn't your leader come out against ID cards, given that's the Tory position for as long as I can remember?
Well, it's my personal position as well to be against a compulsory
So you're
ID
against
card.
your leader?
Well, my personal position, we have not seen what the government is coming up with, right? You may have been briefed, there may be rumours. We haven't seen the government's plans. Kemi's quite right to keep the focus on the government. It's not sad to say what the Conservative Party would or would not do. We did not introduce cards and we cancelled the previous project.
Yeah, that's Andrew Griffiths there, the Shadow Secretary of State for Business and Trade. Sean, I'll come to you briefly. And Matthew, I'll go back to you on some of the questions we had. But Sean, I'll come to you on this because, yeah, I mean, it does seem... I mean, Kemi Badenoch's been a little bit sort of here, there, nowhere on this issue. This is really what traditional Tories should be voting against, isn't it?
I have to disagree with you there. She came out and said it was a desperate move and it will not do anything to stop immigration, and we clearly know that. The idea that we should be registered is wrong. They should register people who are coming to the country. That's where the register needs to be. The other reason this is a ridiculous idea, of course, is because we already have ID cards in the form of an NI card. And what you have to do is enforce the rules that we have, not bring in new ones. One of the real problems with Parliament, I sit in the Lords, we do a lot on legislation, and many times a peer will challenge a law just by saying it's already on the statute books. This is another one that'll be in the statute books. Now, or they'll get away with it by saying you'll have a pretty picture on the card, because that doesn't exist yet. But it's useless unless someone enforces the rules. They currently don't enforce the rules, so I don't see why they think this will happen.
But also, illegal workers thrive off cash in hand. That's how they get paid. So I don't understand how an ID card is going to crack down on any of that. It will surely just go underground.
But again, this is a rule made up by people who do two things. They don't realise people really abuse this and know how, and they've never struggled a day in their life. The whole point of being a legal worker is cash in hand. An ID card does not stop that transaction.
Well, Matthew, this is just Tony Blair, isn't it? He's got it in the Prime Minister's week when they first came into government, and Yvette Cooper said they weren't going to do this. This wasn't in the manifesto for the Labour Party. No one's voted on this. This is a big shift of power from the people to the government, and no one's had a single vote.
It's absolutely not. Almost every citizen already has an ID card from the government, because they already have either a driving licence, a passport, or both. Because you just talked about enforcement, and it's about ensuring that the systems are joined up together. It's about getting rid of layers of government bureaucracy. It's about having the efficiencies in how the state is run that places like the Baltic states have, where Pat McFadden, the senior minister, was just a few weeks ago, looking at how it works. It's not about asking people in the street to produce the ID card under ordinary circumstances.
Matthew.
I also don't think that we can trust the government to implement this efficiently at all. I mean, it took about 3 years to make the government, the gov.uk app. And also, it will be extremely costly. And who's paying for that? People watching.
It will save money over time.
The important thing about this, mandatory. Mandatory. I choose to have a driving licence. I cannot have one. This will be mandatory. And all of our rules suffer from mission creep. So the idea that the police won't get access to information for other things 100%. Is ridiculous. Soon we'll get into medical...
It's this utter naivety that the government does. The government has lots of information on you anyway. I mean, I'm sorry to let people into a secret, but it's not 1870. It's quite hard. I mean, it really isn't.
On one of Sean's points here, because it's mandatory, right? How do you tell that? I mean, Ben, the Liberal Democrat Shadow Attorney General there, was saying that he's got many elderly people in his constituency that don't have smartphones. My grandparents don't have smartphones. What's going to happen? They're going to have to pay, the taxpayer going to have to pay for their smartphones?
No. So I think what will happen is, between... I just looked up the figures, and the smartphone take-up for everybody under 75 is in the 90s. Frankly, for people under 50, it's 100%. So I think what will happen is there will be a form of plastic card available temporarily for the first few years for those, because that cohort of older people will sadly move on, as it were. So, I mean...
cynical. We love
No, it's not cynical. I'm just saying that elderly people don't need to... No, elderly people don't need to worry. No, seriously, they're not going to be forced to have a smartphone.
That's not the issue. The issue's not about how you implement it. It's why you implement it. It shouldn't be implemented.
To make government more efficient and make life easier for the public.
In this country, we are innocent until proven guilty.
And you still will be.
Hold on. And if anybody thinks I'm a conspiracist, ask themselves what happened around the debanking.
You know it's a legal requirement to produce ID anyway, Sean, at the moment.
These things will be driven into somewhere else. It happens to a lot of our law.
So you don't want fraud cut. You don't want people to make sure that people... how many times on this channel have we complained that people who aren't entitled to the NHS are getting access to NHS services? This will stop it.
Well,
you can't complain on one hand and then...
angle on this. We've seen data leak after data leak coming, not just out of Labour, by the way, out of the Tory time as well. We saw that billions of pounds we had to cover up the Afghan scandal with. Do we trust the government with our data, Ellie?
Absolutely not. I don't. I mean, why should we? And look at, as you say, that many examples. And also think about bad state actors. We've seen a lot of cybersecurity hacks across airports recently, etc. So this is, as I said before, total honeypot.
I don't see that the people in every other European country who have an ID card are living in fear of a totalitarian state, even in the most anti-European stream.
You say that, but that's not the point. Just because it doesn't exist now doesn't mean it won't ever in the history of humanity. And what we're doing is enabling a potential, as I said, tin pot dictator.
No, because it's a conspiracy theory.
It's not.
It is. It's a massive transfer.
I tell you why it's not a conspiracy theory. All of our legislation moves on. It tries to adapt and mould. And what all happen is, if you have ID cards, for one thing, for employment, it will then start to be another. You immediately said NHS, fine, we might agree with that. But what happens when you get to the point you don't agree?
It's to access government services, and it's to stop the whole hodgepodge of IDs and of different ways of accessing services and make it cheaper and more efficient for the public.
To crack down on illegal immigration, and I just do not think
that'll be part of it. Not having ID cards is, every study has shown, is a pull for illegal migration. It's why people stop
saying, you know, you can't get into the UK without a passport, and yet we see thousands.
No, because it's not about getting into the UK, it's about being able to operate when you're here and access services.
Look, I think there's a massive resistance to this now. I mean, every single major political party is against this. So let's see what happens. And I think there's a petition going around at the moment. It's collecting about 1,000 signatures an hour. It's at 300,000 now. Anyway, so we'll find out, won't we, if the government can be even more unpopular than it already is. Anyway, it's time for our Great British giveaway. It's your chance to win a massive prize, including a 4-berth motorhome worth over 74k and 30 grand in tax-free cash. Here's all the details.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, coming up, I'll have all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages for you. Some breaking news on the front page of The Telegraph. But get this, the Prime Minister has finally admitted that Labour have got it wrong on migration. Wow. But before that...
If I said to you that swans were being eaten in royal parks in this country, that carp were being taken out of ponds and eaten in this country by people who come from cultures that have a different... Would you agree it's happening here?
I've certainly read... I didn't know about swans.
Yeah, he might be right, he might be wrong. I'm going to put to Dame Andrea Jenkins whether there is too much leaning into conspiracy theories at Reform UK in just a few minutes.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Now, cast your mind back 20 years to Bin Man turned X Factor star Andy Abraham. He is back and he's got a new single called Everything That You Do. Let's have a listen.
We're still in love and it feels so amazing. You make me feel there's nothing that I...
Well, Andy joins us now. It's great to see you. It's a fantastic tune. Why all this and why now?
Do you know, 20 years is a good time to team up with a fantastic producer. And so we come up with this tune and it's, yeah, everybody seems to be liking it. So that's the main thing. But 20 years since X Factor and all that craziness that I went through. So I figured, why not go back into it?
Where has that time gone? So what have you been getting up to in the intervening period?
Oh God, I've been getting up to all sorts, to be honest, but I've still looked the same, obviously. Still bald. Yeah, I'm just loving life, you know, just enjoying my time with my family. I've been touring, releasing albums. So yeah, I'm looking to release another album. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, we'll see where it goes. The industry has changed so much, you know. There isn't really a focal point anymore like a Top of the Pops. There just seems to be so many different types of social media outlets, and yeah, it feels like there's a lot more work to be done, you know what I mean? But I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it either way. I just love writing songs and teaming up with fantastic producers like Benjamin, and yeah, hopefully it does really, really well.
Well, I hope it does, because it's a really good tune.
Good luck,
Andy,
Andy.
it's great to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong, and of course, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage is making headlines again, isn't he? He's refusing to refute Donald Trump's claims that taking paracetamol during pregnancy causes autism.
Nigel, when Donald Trump talks about links between paracetamol or Tylenol and autism, is he right? I have no idea. You think he might be right? I have no idea. You know, we were told thalidomide was a very safe drug, and it wasn't. Who knows? Nick, I don't know. You don't know. He has a particular thing about autism, I think because there's been some in his family, and he feels it very personally. I have no idea. You wouldn't side with the medical experts who say it's dangerous? I wouldn't. I wouldn't. When it comes to science, I don't side with anybody. Right.
Yeah, and in the same interview, he claimed that migrants are eating swans from London's royal parks.
I said to you that swans were being eaten in royal parks in this country, that carp were being taken out of ponds and eaten in this country by people who come from cultures that have a different... Would you agree it's happening here? I've certainly read...
Well, both claims have been dismissed by experts. So, is Reform now leaning too far into conspiracy theories? Now, unfortunately, Dame Andrew Jenkins can't make it. She might have swanned off. Hey. There we go. All right, look, I'll start with you, Matthew, because I have a good, strong feeling I know what you're going to say. What do you make of the... Should we start with the swans thing, because that's a bit closer to...
Well, I love the swans thing, because I thought, hang on, I've been around... I mean, I'm much older than I look, and I thought, I've heard that one before. And I looked at it, it was first around 22 years ago. There's been no evidence for 2 decades that this is the case. But I think, on a more serious point, Nigel has to be very careful, because, you know, the criticism often made of his former party, UKIP, was that it had, you know, I think the words that David Cameron called fruitcakes and barn pots or something like that in it, to if I remember David Cameron rightly. And they turned up at their conference, which was otherwise quite a big success, but then one of these, then a sort of anti-vaxxer, anti-paracetamol doctor pops up as well. I mean, look, you've got people up and down the country, pregnant women, going into pharmacies, worrying that because they've taken 2 paracetamol, and all the evidence shows it's fine. If Nigel wants to be Prime Minister, he's going to have to be a bit more responsible than trotting out these old, a mixture of old hairy chestnuts and any conspiracy theory that comes across the Atlantic.
Ellie, look, I have seen footage of what it looks like people catching swans. It's been going on online. I have seen it. I can't say that they were eaten because I haven't got any evidence to prove that. But, you know, there may be some truth in some of it. Maybe not every day it's happening, but it could have happened on occasion.
Yeah, I think I saw that video of some big bird in a pan, in a pot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, listen, if it is happening, obviously it should be stopped and blocked, so maybe Nigel is right to raise it. On the other hand, as you were rightly saying, there isn't a lot of evidence that this sort of thing is happening. It sort of reminds us of when Trump said they're eating the pets.
They're eating the dogs,
they're eating the pets, which, you know, as you say, it's sort of going into the conspiracy theorist territory, which Nigel does need to be quite careful about.
Yeah, Sean, we of course talk about the paracetamol stuff because Donald Trump's been talking about it. You know, again, I'll point to his administration, which has got reputable doctors on it. These are people from Harvard and other institutions, Stanford, who are saying that there may be a link. Is it the case, and many of those in the Republican Party are saying, well, actually, what's happened in America is that these lots of doctors and these big so-called researchers are paid off by massive pharmaceutical companies to not say the things they don't want you to hear. What do you make of those claims?
I want to be very clear about this. When people tell you Reform is not a protest party, they're wrong. And Nigel's behaviour shows that they are a protest party, because what Nigel does is pick up any little thing and make it a big story because he gets all the attention. Let's be very clear. When you're the PM, you cannot do that.
Totally.
Well, he did say he doesn't know. He didn't say he agrees with Donald.
Let's be clear. Let's be clear. I'm talking about, this is not one offence. He does this all the time. And let's be very clear. When you're the PM, you can make a comment that crashes the markets.
Totally.
You can make a comment that causes people to die. So you don't have the right to catch on to every little conspiracy.
As Trump did with the bleach thing.
Because it is dangerous. It's dangerous, and it shows that you're more interested in your career than you are the welfare of the country. That's why he mustn't do that.
But I think
it's
there's also some muddled comms team behind that, because you would have thought that obviously this was big news, the autism announcement that Trump made. You would have thought their team said, right, what are we going to say about this? I understand Farage's point that science is not always settled. It is often debated. So I do sympathise with that point. On the other hand, with this sort of thing, I think you've got to be quite clear.
Look, the PM's got to let the scientists have their argument. He can't switch out as he likes. It kills people.
Yeah,
let's be very
absolutely.
clear.
He said that he never believes the scientists.
Can I put this counterpoint to you? Because it seems Nigel Farage is quite. I don't know. Many of you might have already met him before. I'm sure you might have done so. He's quite a personable man, and in that interview, he's having a conversation with somebody, like many of us would. You know, is it plausible that paracetamol might do something? I don't know. It's the sort of conversation I might have with someone, right? Isn't this just kind of what the point is?
He's not a guy down the pub. He needs to take responsibility.
He's not.
Sorry, go on.
And let's be clear. His answer to the paracetamol question was fine. He said he doesn't know. That's fine. But there's another thing he needs to do. As the PM, you cannot take on other world leaders' issues. You are our PM, and I think things like that let people realise, actually, am I just making a protest vote here, or do I need to vote for the grown-ups? It's a very big question that each individual have to answer for themselves.
All right, well, look, in a statement, Tylenol maker Kenvue said this. The science clearly shows that taking, I can't ever pronounce this word, but basically paracetamol does not cause autism. We strongly disagree with any suggestion otherwise and are deeply concerned with the health risk this poses for expecting mothers. In a statement, the Royal Parks charity said, we've not had any incidents reported to us of people killing or eating swans in London's 8 royal parks. Our wildlife officers work closely with the Swan Sanctuary to ensure the welfare of the swans across the parks. OK, well, there you have it. Coming up, I'll have all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages and some breaking news on the front page of the Telegraph. Words you probably thought you'd never hear. The Prime Minister, get this, finally admitted that Labour have got it wrong on migration. Oh, well. And what's going on here?
Didn't get any sleep last night. My boyfriend confirmed to me that he wants to vote Reform, and we had a pretty big argument.
I'm going to ask Matthew Larser whether he'd have sleepless nights if he found out his partner was voting for Reform. All of that and much...
I'd have sleepless nights finding one.
All of that in a few minutes.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heaviest and most thundery rain that's been affecting parts of Central Europe through recent days, that's now starting to ease. But nonetheless, a fair few showers across parts of Greece and nearby countries as we go through Friday. A few showery bursts still across Italy, could still be quite heavy towards the north. Meanwhile, further west across much of Spain and Portugal, it's largely fine, albeit with a few showery bursts pushing towards Madeira and the Canary Islands. Lots of fine weather for most of us through into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead, it's set to be another dry day tomorrow, then a change over the weekend. It's likely we'll see some outbreaks of rain push in from the west. That's all due to low pressure moving its way in from the Atlantic as high pressure slips away off to the east. And as it does so, it does bring in a slight change in our wind direction, more south to southeasterly flow. So we'll see more cloud push into parts of East Anglia, Sussex and Kent. This may produce some showers, also some showers possible across Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. But elsewhere, mostly dry, plenty of clear skies. So it's likely we'll see some mist and fog once again during the morning. Also some isolated rural frost, but most towns and cities remaining in the mid to high single figures. Now, to start the day across Scotland, yes, it will be mostly dry, but it's going to be fairly gusty, particularly around western coasts. A chance of some coastal gales here. So it's unlikely to see any mist or fog during the morning, so mostly bright but breezy start, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland too. But across the rest of England and Wales, once again, it could be fairly chilly. Some mist and fog, particularly around any valleys. Not feeling quite as cold, though, across parts of the southeast. More cloud here. And as we progress through the course of the day, this cloud will spread its way further inland. So it's likely that sunshine will turn more hazy in nature, and once again this cloud could be thick enough to produce the odd isolated shower. But for most it should be another dry day, the best of the brightness across parts of the west, and not feeling quite as warm as it did this afternoon, highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the southeast. Now, as we head into Saturday, we'll start to see this change. This frontal system pushing in from the west, at times bringing some quite persistent and heavy outbreaks of rain. At first into Northern Ireland and then pushing its way eastwards into western Scotland, western parts of England and Wales, where it could linger through much of the day. But most of the east should be mostly dry and bright. And then it looks like turning brighter as we head into next week. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Alex Armstrong. Oh my goodness, have we just seen a story that our eyes are just falling out of the floor here? But let's go through your front pages. The Metro, compulsory digital ID cards are on the cards. The Mirror, playing the Brit card. Express, schools should ban phones to protect nations' pupils. The Sun, is it because I is having a midlife crisis? Ali G, Sacha Baron Cohen, of course, 53 dates model 27. And The Telegraph, Starmer, Labour got it wrong on migration. OK, right. We're going to stay on The Telegraph because it's not that story I wanted to... We will get to it because I think it's nuts. It's the story underneath it, right? Get this. Tony Blair, we haven't had enough on this man, ready to lead interim government of Gaza after the war ends. Will he go away? Will he ever just go away? He's so hungry for power, isn't he? They'll have digital ID cards in Gaza before they've got buildings. Ellie, I mean...
This is absolutely unbelievable, to be honest. Well, apparently the White House is backing the plans. I think this is totally bizarre, but as you say, Blair doesn't want to let go of any of his power. I mean, I think he's got enough advising Starmer and pushing this Brit card idea onto the people. of Britain, but this really is amazing, isn't it? I mean, how old is he now?
72.
72.
Much younger than the president.
I'm in two minds about this story. So the bit I like is the idea that the war will end. That would please me. Nothing would please me more than this war end. But the bit I hate is the idea that we have Blair. He's had his time. It's not like nobody in Gaza thinking, I know what, Tony Blair could help us out. They don't want him there. He thinks too much of himself. He should retire and leave us all alone, including the people of Gaza.
He's messed around with the Middle East too much.
I think he's the last person anyone would want running a government, particularly in the Middle East. Matthew, I mean, it's just ridiculous, isn't it?
No, I don't think it's ridiculous at all. I mean, look, no. Look, I mean, if you actually read the detail of the story, what it would be is there'd be effectively it's a UN job because there'd be a kind of international body to temporarily run Gaza, which would have Palestinian representatives, would have UN representatives, and I suspect that the Americans want somebody to head it who is acceptable to them, but is reasonably acceptable to most of the rest of the world. And Blair is that. Remember, he did
we must be able to find someone other than Blair.
Well, the reason is that he did his Middle East envoy thing.
How about someone from Gaza?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the idea is it would hand over very quickly to a Palestinian. It would be like, you know, when Paddy Ashdown went to run Kosovo? You're too young to remember that, but when after the war in Kosovo, Paddy Ashdown was the kind of running for a wheel. He's dead.
OK.
I was going to say...
I didn't know how to break that.
That counts Paddy out, but let's find someone else. Blair, I don't know, there's just this little feeling of he thinks so much of himself that, you know, he's so wise and we need him. I really do believe we need somebody else for that job.
I just can't believe...
I think he comes up with good ideas, like a digital ID card.
This is what I mean. It's the hubris of the man. I mean, he started a war that's made him probably one of the most unpopular prime ministers in at least modern memory, and now he thinks he can go around a place where he really ripped up the roots of and thinks he can start running governments there, Ellie. I just find this absolutely bonkers.
And usually when we get involved in the Middle East, it doesn't end well.
Doesn't end well when Tony Blair's involved either, does it?
Exactly. So this is absolutely hilarious.
So while we're here, should we talk about the rest of the Telegraph front page? We might as well, because Keir Starmer is admitting Labour got it wrong on migration. PM aims to counter reform and the far right, and will bring in mandatory ID cards. Of course, they're making that statement there as well. But so Keir Starmer will today, I mean, this means tomorrow technically, that Labour previously got it wrong on migration ahead of a speech countering reform, Matthew.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is he's delivering this speech actually to a thing that I used to partly run, which is called Global Progress, which brings together leaders, progressive centre-left leaders from around the world. And the reason I mention that is because some of them, like the Danish Prime Minister, who is effectively a Labour, is the Danish equivalent of the Labour Party's Prime Minister from that, she has her party taken a very firm stance on migration, and it's helped keep her in office for the best part of a decade now. So it's about listening to things like that. So that's interesting that he's chosen that forum to talk about ID cards, because I think that in terms of selling into the Labour Party, that's the line that he'll use.
Yeah, sure. Just, I mean, we'll talk about ID cards later because we've got loads of other headlines on it, but specifically on them getting it wrong on migration, you would have thought, having seen the thumping the Tories got at the last election, I would say over migration, personally, and a mixture of other things too. But over migration, they at least saw their massive collapse in the polls. Starmer should have known this from the get-go.
No, Starmer's playing to a different crowd. So there's large parts of the Labour Party who think this is a great thing, or think if you say anything about another country, you're racist. And his natural audience has been them. He's now realised that reform and the right of the Tory party are speaking to an even bigger cohort of people who are often not interested in politics at all until you talk about migration. He has to speak to them. So what happened to the Tories in an election that Labour are now worried about? They could get a reform thumping as well. And I don't think he can get this past, certainly his parliamentary party. They will feel very differently about this than maybe the public.
Indeed. Very briefly,
I think this is just an excuse for the digital ID cards. Oh, it's all about migration. I don't think it really is.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you on that one anyway. Coming up, I'll bring you more. Trust me, there's a lot more to get into in these newspaper front pages. And the Prime Minister's decision, of course, to roll out ID cards are dominating them. That's next.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
She's got it all wrapped up, hasn't she?
Yeah, £2,000 worth of gifts all set to go under the tree. I admire people who go out to the Christmas Eve and buy all their presents.
Oh, so it's hellish. It's hellish.
Have you done that?
I have done it once or twice, yeah.
Oh, dear.
So you have to buy for so many people, the dog, the cat, your partner. I mean, honestly.
It's never ending.
Never ending.
I've tried stockpiling before, and then when it comes to Christmas Eve, I'd get everything out thinking I've got loads and loads and loads. And I feel like I haven't got enough, and then I end up panic buying.
I like the whole festive period. It's my birthday 2 weeks before Christmas, so I like doing the shopping when the trees are up and the lights are out, and it's like, you know, proper Christmas vibe to it. It just feels wrong doing it so far in advance.
So you're Sagittarius?
Yeah.
What date are you? I'm the 16th.
I'm just before you. I'm the 11th.
Oh.
That's my granny's birthday.
I know.
Nice date. Yeah. Do you like to shop physically in person in the shops, or do you do it online?
Normally, all year round, I absolutely loathe shopping, absolutely loathe it with a passion. But I do like Christmas shopping. I like buying stuff for other people.
Oh, that's nice.
Do you? And toys for your husband.
And toys for my husband. Yeah, we were talking about Christmas toys as well, weren't we, earlier on?
Yeah.
And the thing I was saying to Biggins is about sort of like, you know, buying toys for grown men.
Yes.
But my husband is at that age now where he's reliving his past, and I want to buy him the little toys he couldn't afford when he was a kid.
So what sort of toys are we talking?
Little cars he couldn't... Not that, no. Don't go back to that conversation.
What, like some electric?
The little cars he couldn't afford when he was a little boy. They were little Tonka toys, and he couldn't afford them when he was a kid. He had second.
Is it Hot Wheels?
Yeah.
Hot Wheels?
Hot Wheels.
Hot
rods.
Hot rods.
Hot Wheels.
Carry on up, GB News. Breakfast this morning.
Yeah.
Hot rods are the big racing cars, aren't they?
Yeah, very big.
Hot Wheels.
GB News, the People's Channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racist tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome back, everybody. More front pages hot off the press. Let's get started. The Independent. The Independent says new digital ID cards to be compulsory for all UK workers. The Guardian. Microsoft blocks Israel's use of technology for mass surveillance. The Times. Digital ID scheme will confirm right to work. Daily Mail. Show us your digital papers. And the FT doing something a little bit different from the digital ID stuff. They're saying Burnham borrowing spree would rock gilts and hurt sterling investors' war. Now, let's talk to my panel about this, because I do want to get stuck into a bit of Burnham tonight. We've talked about the digital ID, and we will talk about it again, I promise you. But Andy Burnham has been everywhere, hasn't he? We haven't been able to escape the bloke for the last 48 hours. Matthew, he smells blood in the water for your private...
Well, I think at the moment, actually, he thought he smelled blood in the water, and now I think people smell the blood of Burnham in the water. Yeah, I think he's not quite so cocky as the King of the North as he might be. I mean, I'm from Manchester, so, you know, we've got to be pro his record there. But this FT story is really interesting, because what the fight back from Number 10 and the Starmer team today has been that a Burnham premiership would be like Liz Truss. There'd be a financial crisis, because he said in his interview with the New Statesman magazine that he's just borrowing more money, don't worry about the bankers. And what the FT is saying, you can say you don't want to worry about the bankers, but you've got to, because if nobody will lend you money, you can't do it, or it becomes ridiculously expensive.
And nationalise utilities, we're talking water, energy, all the rest. Total socialism and really quite nuts. It would be terrible. It'd bring Britain back into the 70s. But it is quite entertaining to see Starmer going out today and saying, I will lead from the front towards the next election. I mean, we're 14 months in. That's usually what, you know, leaders say when they're on their last legs at the very end of their 5 years. It's actually quite entertaining and actually quite humiliating for Starmer going into Labour conference this weekend.
Sean, he also says, well, something bonkers, like he wanted to have different council tax for southeastern Londoners because he thinks we're all posh and rich down here, which would, in my opinion, just start a class war, a regional and class war at the same time.
He would love a class war because he believes he would win. Look, the problem here for Burnham is he doesn't sound realistic to the political bubble, which, as much as you don't like it, is very important. And when I say the political bubble, I mean the broadest sense: bankers, the city, everybody else. He sounds like someone from the 70s. And unfortunately, Rachel Reeves has already got us on our way back there. We don't need someone who's to speed up. It's interesting though that people are comparing him to Liz Truss, because Liz Truss did a better job than Rachel Reeves is at this point. We are in a real pickle. Bring back Liz Truss, because the hole this lady's dug is way bigger.
Yeah. Oh, Sean, I agree with you on many things, but I'm not sure there's much of a consensus about bringing back Liz Truss.
We will see. We will see. Well, let's be very clear. Rachel Reeves would love the hole that Liz caused, because she's dug her far. That's a fact.
Well, Matthew, doesn't give a bit of balance for Burnham here. If someone's got to defend him, it's clearly going to be me.
Are you going to do the accent?
I'm going to have to do it. I'm not going to do the accent. Maybe later I'll do it. But at the end of the day, what's happened to Labour is the fact they've lost who they are. They haven't got an identity anymore. And Burnham's saying, well, actually, what's popular right now? What's popular with the Greens? What's happening with Corbyn? Where are we losing some of our left wing? Where's Angela Rayner's gone? We need socialism, and that's where he thinks the Labour Party should be. Because other than that, I mean, how are you doing in the polls? I mean, Reform are miles ahead of you at this point.
Well, of course, one of the things he doesn't talk about is migration, because he didn't want to talk about that in his New Statesman interview, because he doesn't think the Labour members are terribly interested in that, so he sort of ignored it. I'll tell you what, the voters in Manchester and in the North are interested in that. So, but look, Andy Burnham's right, because every Labour MP would tell you they think the government needs to have more of a vision, more of a clear sense of purpose. That's what Starmer's going to do next week, but I don't think they think Andy on manoeuvres is the answer.
Ellie, do you just think this is like a big split? It feels like the tremblings are starting and there's an earthquake about to happen.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there is a civil war brewing. On the other hand, I feel like Andy has overplayed his hand.
Yeah, totally.
Too early. And also, let's not forget, it's really difficult to challenge a Labour leader. He's going to have to... An MP will have to stand aside as a by-election. The NEC will have to put Andy up to be a candidate, and we hear that actually they're doing everything they can to block that from happening. Then you'd have to win, looking at the polls. That's unlikely. And then you have to get 80 MPs to back you. I mean, I think it's...
Watch out for a rule change that says sitting mayors can't go back to Parliament. Maybe that'll get slipped in the rule book.
There isn't enough of a clamour to remove Starmer yet from his own MPs. And what Burnham, the problem he has is that all mayors have. MPs loathe the idea that a mayor who's had a big budget is going to swan back into Parliament and take over. They're like, well, we've been doing all the work. You stay up north and be quiet. And the other thing he's got completely wrong, you say Labour has no identity. Let's be clear. Labour's homeland, Labour's heartland is here in London.
Yes, it's a very good point.
And he wants to tax more to
he's outside. And also, one thing you forget is it's not just Labour's voter heartland. About 40% of the members are in London.
Yes,
massively disproportionate.
And also, I mean, if he was trying to go for a seat, I mean, what's
might not win the by-election?
Safe seat?
Absolutely.
I don't think there are safe seats in politics right now. I think everything's up for grabs.
The only safe seats might be in London, but he ain't not going to be doing that with his Mr. North, is he?
That's right.
Just put them all off.
Everybody's a majority. Almost everybody's majority in Parliament went down. A lot of volatility in the system.
Is there a risk if someone does pull that they sort of try and stab the knife in this early that they could forever just kept out very briefly, Sean?
Yes.
It happened to Michael Portillo.
All right, listen, there's a whole boatload of news coming up for you in just a moment. But before that, let's find out the weather. And trust me, some of the front pages here are exceptional. We'll be digging into them. See you very shortly.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking ahead, it's set to be another dry day tomorrow, then a change over the weekend. It's likely we'll see some outbreaks of rain push in from the west. That's all due to low pressure moving its way in from the Atlantic as high pressure slips away off to the east. And as it does so, it does bring in a slight change in our wind direction, a more south to southeasterly flow. So we'll see more cloud push into parts of East Anglia, Sussex and Kent. This may produce some showers, also some showers possible across Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. But elsewhere, mostly dry, plenty of clear skies. So it's likely we'll see some mist and fog once again during the morning. Also some isolated rural frost, but most towns and cities remaining in the mid to high single figures. Now, to start the day across Scotland, yes, it will be mostly dry, but it's going to be fairly gusty, particularly around western coasts. A chance of some coastal gales here. So it's unlikely to see any mist or fog during the morning, so mostly bright but breezy start, and fairly similar across Northern Ireland too. But across the rest of England and Wales, once again, it could be fairly chilly. Some mist and fog, particularly around any valleys. Not feeling quite as cold, though, across parts of the southeast. More cloud here. And as we progress through the course of the day, this cloud will spread its way further inland. So it's likely that sunshine will turn more hazy in nature, and once again this cloud could be thick enough to produce the odd isolated shower. But for most it should be another dry day, the best of the brightness across parts of the west, and not feeling quite as warm as it did this afternoon, highs reaching around 16 to 17 degrees Celsius in the southeast. Now, as we head into Saturday, we'll start to see this change. This frontal system pushing in from the west, at times bringing some quite persistent and heavy outbreaks of rain. At first into Northern Ireland and then pushing its way eastwards into western Scotland.